if you grew up in a family where attachment needs were met, at least were met good enough, then you're probably going to develop a secure attachment, meaning, I don't have anxiety about my wants and needs. I don't have anxiety about asking for my wants and needs to be met. I feel secure in closeness. How else would you describe secure attachment?
I would say describe secure attachment in like I can be okay with myself and I can be okay with myself in a relationship. So I don't feel like I need to shift myself in a relationship in order to be okay. But I also don't feel like I have to self isolate in order to be okay.
Yeah. And
Um,
again, these aren't perfect families. They're just adaptive. The needs of the individual family members are met good enough, right? And so then they will develop a secure attachment. Now they can get into a relationship with somebody with insecure attachment. I don't know that that happens a lot, because sometimes that just feels foreign, right? It feels foreign for the person who has insecure attachment to be with somebody who is secure. I think it also feels foreign for somebody in secure attachment to pair with somebody who has insecure attachment, and for that not to feel somewhat foreign, or like just to misunderstand that. And I often will say, if you're in an insecure attachment style, some of the work that you need to do is earning back a secure attachment, right? I'll usually say we're born with a secure attachment. Maybe it's immaturely developed, but we're born with a secure attachment, meaning, when a baby wakes up and needs to be fed in the middle of the night, they're not like, hey, excuse me, if it's no bother, I realize it's 2 o'clock in the morning, but I need to be changed and I need to be fed. Like, babies aren't conscious of that. They're not having that conscious thought. Now, if that feels like to the parent a burden, or they are bothered by that, or, I know there were whole parenting decades that said that let the baby cry it out, sleep train this baby, let the baby cry it out, then, that may be the beginning of some insecure attachment, meaning, my needs do feel burdensome. My needs aren't met when I need them to be. And that can happen at young ages.
yeah. I also want, like, because I talk to my clients about this, and I think that it's really important to even destigmatize the language that's being used a little bit. Like, the reality is, like, yeah, secure attachment is the hope, right? Like that we reach some kind of or closer to secure attachment. But most people, in my experience, at least, like, I've never had a securely attached person in my office, right? Like, in 12 years, I have never met a securely attached person in my office. I don't know that I've met a securely attached person in my real life. If I have, I didn't know that. But I think that there's a level of just recognizing it's fairly normal for us to be insecurely attached. It's fairly normal for us to have like these things that show up that then manifest in the way that we do intimate relationships. And I think that talking about it in terms of being normal versus like a healthy ideal is really important, because we can get really stuck on the like, but I want to be securely attached, and then we preoccupy about being securely attached, and then it becomes a whole thing. And I don't know that that is necessarily what we're going for or what we're talking about, but it is that level of like recognizing where this came from and why we show up in the relationships that we would do, and then working towards secure attachment in the best way possible.
Yeah. I also tell my clients, if you developed an insecure attachment and you're working back towards secure attachment, that doesn't mean this default setting of insecure attachment disappears or just goes away. I think, it can surface sometimes. But we also can sometimes override that or be aware when it's surfacing. And, I'll sometimes say, like, maybe our initial response comes from that insecure attachment, and we can have a second response pretty closely